Beholders get in the way of their own greatness. Their stat block is a mixed bag of randomized abilities, no two of which are truly equal. And on top of that, their main ability cancels out their ability to use their other options. But today's deep dive into personality, lairs, battle tactics, and synergistic allies can help to untangle all those eye stalks and transform your beholder from cute plushie into aberrant eye tyrant. My name is Timothy, though some people do call me Tim. I've been DMing for almost 30 years, running 7 weekly games of 5th edition for the last 4, and I run a DMing masterclass where DMs of all stages work together to stop running games that are just fine and instead run great sessions every time. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Beholders are crazy, and I mean that as in clinically. Their personality is almost wholly defined by their various disorders. They are paranoid, narcissistic megalomaniacs with a dash of onirophobia and some xenophobia for good measure. Each of these disorders helps to transform the beholder into the eye tyrant that we love to hate. And so to understand beholders, we have to break those issues down and see how that impacts decisions that we'll make both for and against them, because everyone is against them. Taking paranoia to new heights, beholders are always certain that everyone is out to get them. From a player's perspective, this makes manipulating them a simple case of preying upon that fear. They are probably the easiest boss monster to turn against their own minions. Even long-term, ultra-loyal minions that would happily throw themselves on a sword for their beholder master are not above suspicion. And even a thread of proof is grounds for dismissal by disintegration, which is probably one reason why beholders don't tend to have a lot of long-term minions. They're probably constantly hiring in order to replace all the people that they've destroyed themselves rather than having to worry about adventurers coming in. Meanwhile, their narcissism and megalomania sort of feed one another. Essentially, they're absolutely sure that the world revolves around them, or that it should. Their own needs come first always, and they don't think that's weird. In fact, they can't understand why you would think otherwise. This can lead to some very sharp changes in behavior during any given moment for a beholder. In the beginnings of a conflict, they are absolutely certain that they can destroy anyone and anything that they encounter. But when they're endangered, they'll throw everyone and anything under the bus in order to escape. And then they'll blame that on someone else, and probably disintegrate them. Are you seeing a pattern?
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Xenophobia isn't exactly the right clinical term for a beholder's hatred of others, because they mostly hate their own kind, not other kinds. All other species are inferior, but other beholders are disgustingly, outrageously inferior and horrific, and thanks to their paranoia, out to get them. Beholder will go to any lengths to destroy another beholder, which is a ripe world-building point for putting beholder into your game. Why put one in when you can put 2 and have them battling against each other and place your PCs into the middle of it? As manipulatable as they are, you might get both of these beholder working against each other to the tune of the PCs, but because they're so unpredictable and so difficult to control, things could turn bad fast for your party. Fortunately, given how badly beholders hate other beholders, they don't need another beholder in order to reproduce.
What?
Less fortunately, they can't predict when they're going to have this baby child, which is why they suffer from onirophobia, the fear of dreams. Because canonically, that's how beholders reproduce, though it isn't actually mentioned anymore in the 2024 lore. When beholders dream about other beholders, or beholder kin like gazers or spectators, there is a chance that those creatures just spontaneously appear out of thin air, dreamed into existence. And given how much they like to kill one another, that would be kind of like spontaneously creating a serial killer for whom you are the favored prey while you're sleeping. It's no wonder that they don't want to dream. This fear makes stimulants or other means of avoiding sleep or dreams another must for beholders. So add substance abuse to their likely list of issues, not to mention sleep deprivation. If it weren't for their paranoia, you could probably sell them some kind of poison by claiming that it's a dream repellent. With all of this going on, it's no surprise that beholders have kind of an alien mindset. Their agendas can seem kind of random. They can be anything from weird hermits to leaders of grand organizations. And that makes them very versatile as villains for a DM to use. Honestly, whatever your campaign needs in terms of a mid-level big bad evil guy, the beholder will fit as long as you twist its disorders to make it fit. One other personality trait of beholders is an interest in magic. This includes the collection and use of magic items. Putting rings on a beholder's eye stalks is kind of a classic, though there used to actually be some cool magical items like a beholder pick that they could put into their mouth in order to manipulate things. Regardless, this love of magic items is an excuse to put extra magical items into their hoard when your adventurers come calling. Load up on fun little common items just as much as the useful ones, so you can replace some of the gold you might otherwise have given without overpowering your party, if you're worried about that sort of thing. But beholders also have a preference for old magic-infused ruins, which of course brings them into obvious conflict with ruin-raiding adventurers that might stumble upon their lair. Speaking of lairs, beholders are primarily underground-dwelling aberrations, and they make a lot of paranoid additions to the ruins that they occupy. Several of their magical eye rays help them in doing so. Though in combat their eye rays are rather random, canonically outside of combat they have the ability to control which eye ray they're using and for what purpose. This allows them to cut new passageways with their disintegration ray, or move heavy doors out of the way with telekinesis. And so round-cut holes running through the ceilings of the ruins they inhabit and heavy slabs blocking doorways are classic inclusions. Because they are quite brilliant as well as paranoid, secret passageways are also quite common, especially ones that might be hard to navigate for creatures who can't float. Their lairs might also include destructible elements. Why risk missing an intruder when you could disintegrate a support beam instead? Bury the enemy alive and secure your exit? Thank you very much. Pinning down a beholder's ideal battlefield is kind of hard, because their abilities ramble back and forth between ranged and melee, cone, and single target. So an ideal battlefield is essentially one that allows the beholder to pick which of these abilities is needed. High ceilings with tight raised tunnels and open floor plans down below are probably your best bet. Raised cover is good to protect the beholder, but ground cover is just going to get in the way. Their fascination with magic, as well as their ability to create anti-magic out of their primary eye, make ongoing magical effects within their lair a must, too. Any permanent effect that would be useful to temporarily disable is a great addition. A permanent wall of fire, stone, or force, and a movable rod holding up a crushing ceiling trap. Or a room filled with a magical hazard like reversed gravity or magical poisonous mist. All of these become increasingly interesting hazards and environmental effects when you factor in that they can be blinked on and off by the beholder at any point in time. On top of all of this, beholders' alien minds twist the Underdark around them, adding 2 potent effects within a mile of their lair. And if you want to increase the potency of these effects, keep in mind that a mile might be as the crow flies, and there aren't a lot of crows flying through solid stone. Tunnels winding in and back on themselves might make multiple miles of tunnel in order to close that last mile of distance between you and the beholder's territory. The first effect is that beholders share their paranoia. Sharing is caring, right? Attempting a short rest in this area means passing a DC 13 Wisdom saving throw to avoid the fear of being watched. Fail and the hour passes, but you don't get the benefits of the short rest, which is pretty nasty. The other ability warps reality, making accidents a way of life. This affects both the characters and any minions of the Beholder that are not immune to the prone trait, because any natural one on any D20 roll results in you falling prone. Trying to wall run across a pit? Prone. Attacking the Beholder with your sword? Prone. Lost in thought, trying to decipher an arcane rune? Whoops. Prone. Okay, that last one's silly, but still rules as written. The world actually twists around you in a way that is assumed to be outside of your control. It's not a failure to think correctly about the rune that results in you dropping down, but rather being dumped on your butt while you were trying to think. And heavens forbid that you roll a 1 in combat, because now Beholders bite. And their legendary ability to bite now is something to look out for. We'll get to that in just a little bit, because Beholder tactics have changed a lot with this new stat block. For now, let's start at the top and work our way down. With a respectable armor class and decent hit points, their first standout is the Paranoia granted plus 12 to initiative rolls. They are not likely to be last in the initiative, that's for sure. Constitution and Wisdom saving throws are their best options, with everything else being reasonably average. Though of course 3 or 4 in their lair legendary resistance helps to shore that up. Personally, I always liked storing their legendary resistances in their eye stalks as a little homebrew, so that when they used a legendary resistance, one of their eye stalks would go limp and no longer be included on the random table. They have a fly speed of 40 feet with the hover trait, meaning that they are immune to being proned. Or they have a rolling on the ground speed of 5 feet, which I've never seen, but really want to now. With 120-foot dark vision and a plus 12 on their perception checks, they are hard to sneak up on. It's all the eyes and the paranoia. But they don't have blind sight or true sight, so you can pull it off. Life goals for your rogue. And unless you add it in, they don't speak any surface languages, limiting them to Undercommon and Deep Speech. Your party might overcome that with magic, but magic doesn't always work with a Beholder. Though this new stat block for the Beholder doesn't have the anti-magic ray from its main eye always active. Instead, they activate it as a bonus action that lasts until the beginning of their next turn. This allows them to keep their anti-magic out of their own eye ray's way, but it also leaves them open to counterattack, but not tremendously so. Players might be tempted to ready a spell for when the anti-magic cone drops off of their wizard in order to cast it. But the rules require a readied spell to be cast when you take the readied action, not when you use the reaction to finish it. And you can't cast spells or take the magic action while you're inside of an anti-magic field. Also, interestingly, the cone effect no longer moves with the Beholder, meaning that they blink it into existence, but can then move away, or move into it. This gives them a lot of tactical maneuverability. They can float overhead and move right into their own cone of anti-magic in order to protect themselves from enemy spellcasters. Then on their turn, it drops and they unleash their eye rays once again. Or they can move to where it places the anti-magic cone between them and certain parts of the battlefield, while they focus on creatures on the other side. Or just bite like crazy on someone whose spells and magical armor has been reduced to common gear. Speaking of biting, they can bite as an action, but it's rarely worth it, because their multi-attack is 3 eye rays. And here's where Beholders get tricky, because their eye rays in combat are randomly rolled. 10 potential effects, none of which can happen twice in a single turn. In the strictest reading of these eye rays, you might have to choose the target first, and then get a random grab bag of whether or not these eye rays are useful against that particular target, which can lead to very unsatisfying combat. Personally, though it's a homebrew, I recommend rolling the eye rays first and then choosing the target. But even if you don't do that, since they added some damage to some of the previously status-only eye-rays, the new 2024 eye-rays are not as useless when fired against the wrong target as the 2014 ones were. Regardless, on the assumption that you're rolling these randomly but choosing your targets tactically, here are my recommendations for who gets hit with what. Charm Ray. Hit them where the big damage, low wisdom scores live. Rogue number 1, then Barbarian, Fighter, Sorcerer. Paralyzing Ray. Lowest con save, hit points, and armor class. Hello, Wizard. Fly over as soon as you can and bite them to death with automatic crits. Fear Ray. A frightened condition on a wisdom saving throw. Anyone with lots of attacks or a need for advantage and a low or average wisdom saving throw. Also, anyone who needs to get close. Fighter, Barbarian, Sorcerer, and Rogue are most susceptible. The Slowing Ray. Generally, we're talking melee opponents, slowing them down and restricting them to a single action. This is not a great ray, targeting Constitution, but needing to target tough guys more often than not. It's more effective if you've got a squishy target on the run and you're looking to slow them down so they won't escape you. Ah, Wizard, we meet again. Enervation Ray. Another con save, this time for the poison condition and taking away the ability to heal. Your most injured opponent almost has to be the target of this one. If you're lucky or have been strategic, hopefully that's a rogue or wizard or another low hit point target with an average constitution save. The telekinetic ray. Finally, we punish the dexterity marshals with a strength saving throw, though this is more deadly on a ranged opponent with an average or below average dex save, snatching them up and bringing them up close and personal and within reach of your legendary bite attacks. And for a bonus, you get to drop them for gravity damage and the prone condition at the beginning of your next turn. The Sleep Ray. A solid crowd control with a wisdom saving throw. The unconscious condition also leaves you lying there prone and susceptible to an automatic critical hit on the first close combat attack against you. So get biting. Unless they're isolated from their allies. They don't get extra saves round by round, so only damage or a friendly shaking is going to wake them up. And if this happens to somebody on your team, remember, an unarmed slap is going to do a lot less damage than a beholder's critical bite. The petrification ray restrains immediately, but you do get a second saving throw to avoid being petrified at the end of your next turn. So, target the next guy in the initiative order if they've got a low con save to maximize this effect. Or if that's not an option, target somebody close to you but later in the initiative order so that you can get advantage on your bite attacks for longer. The disintegration ray. This is a brute force ray. A low dex target is good, but solid damage even if they succeed on the saving throw makes this very dangerous. If the battlefield is prepared for it, use this on an object to trigger some kind of collapse or other effect. Also, if you're an absolute monster, remember that targeting a badly injured opponent means that when they run out of hit points, they don't get back up. Finally, the Death Ray, the big stick. Like Disintegration, this ray puts low hit point targets out, not down, and hurts solidly even if they save. Weirdly, it's also a dex save, so focus on wizards or clerics or just the most dangerous target. All in all, eye rays are pretty hit or miss in potency, but they're significantly better thanks to the inclusion of a little bit of damage on all but 4 of the otherwise status-inducing rays, which, given their first legendary action, is pretty important, because with their 3 or 4 legendary actions, they can expend 1 in order to fire off another randomized ray. And because when they fire the ray, it's not the same turn as it was when they used their multi-attack, this means they can duplicate effects that were already used. This can give you really good odds on getting a disintegration or a death ray at least once every full round. But it also means that you could potentially get up to 6 of those effects in one round, which is totally TPK material. But you can't count on it and won't know which way it's going to go. Still, if you're out of reach of your opponents, it's a worthy gamble. If, however, you're forced to get up close and personal, or you've successfully landed some crowd control, then there's a more reliable option. Chomp, which is actually 2 bite attacks for every legendary action spent, which, if they both hit, does more damage than all but the disintegration or death ray. On unconscious, prone, or restrained targets, this is pretty likely, and can average 104 damage in a round if they don't crit. As I mentioned earlier, when it comes to their allies, beholders are their friend's worst enemy. So clever players might be able to increase their odds of survival by turning the eye tyrant against its friends. But that doesn't mean that they won't recruit minions to fight for them. They just won't trust them. From a synergy standpoint, creatures that restrain or stun targets are some of the best allies for beholders. In addition to advantage on bites, their dexterity targeting eye rays will land more successfully with these conditions in play. And with disadvantage on attack rolls for a restrained character, the beholder's decent armor class will hold up all the better. Traditionally, beholders work with humanoids or other aberrations, but not with beholderkin. A berserker commander can help shore up a beholder's lack of legendary movement. A questing knight's aura might help calm a beholder's paranoia a little bit, and thus allow the questing knight to survive longer as its minion. They'd make a pretty good lieutenant. Personally, I look to the humanoid and aberration tables in the monster manual, as well as the list of underdark creatures in the same for inspiration. Also, not to be forgotten are beholder zombies and gas spore fungus, both of which are classics. Given how much a beholder hates their own kind, keeping the corpse around as a zombie as a show of power is just cool. And the zombie's eye rays have a 50% chance of being useful in synergy with the true beholder. Meanwhile, a failed save against a gas spore's death burst adds a terrifying ticking clock, or eats resources, either of which is a win. Like watching this video all the way to the end was a win. What monster would you like to hear more about next? While you're thinking about that, here's some cat video for you to enjoy. I'll see you in the next monster guide.
Hi, buddy. Hi.